children, welcome to Preschool Storytime. It's a little bit different, but we're still going to have fun. So I thought maybe we could start with, if you're happy and you know it, just like you would if we were here at the library. Are you ready? Here we go. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. What comes next? I think it's stomp our feet. Here we go. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. Let's shout hooray. I want it nice and loud. Hooray! Nice and loud. Here we go. If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray. Hooray! If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray. Hooray! If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray. Hooray! Whew. Let's do all three. Ready? Are we ready? If you're happy and you know it, do all three. Clap your hands, stomp your feet. Hooray! If you're happy and you know it, do all three. Clap your hands, stomp your feet. Hooray! If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, do all three. Clap your hands, stomp your feet. Hooray! Good job. For today's story time, we're going to talk about frogs. So the first book will be Jump, Frog, Jump. This is the fly that climbed out of the water. This is the frog that was under the fly that climbed out of the water. How did the frog catch the fly? Jump, frog, jump! This is the fish that swam after the frog that was under the fly that climbed out of the water. How did the frog get away? Jump, frog, jump! This is the snake that dropped from a branch that swallowed the fish that swam after the frog that was under the fly that climbed out of the water. How did the frog get away? Jump, frog, jump! This is the turtle that slid onto the pond and ate the snake that dropped from the branch that swallowed the fish that swam after the frog that was under the fly that climbed out of the water. How did the frog get away? Jump, frog, jump! This is the net that wrapped around the turtle that slid into the pond that ate the snake that dropped from a branch and swallowed the fish that swam after the frog that was under the fly that climbed out of the water. How did the frog get away? Jump, frog, jump! These are the kids who picked out the net that wrapped around the turtle that slid into the pond and ate the snake that dropped from a branch and swallowed the fish that swam after the frog that was under the fly that climbed out of the water. How did the frog get away? Jump, frog, jump! This is the basket put over the frog by the kids who picked up the net that wrapped around the turtle that slid into the pond and ate the snake that dropped from a branch and swallowed the fish and swam after the frog that was under the fly that climbed out of the water. How did the frog get away? Shh. Jump, frog, jump! And then we'll talk about growing frogs. Once when I was little, my mom read me a story about a frog that grew bigger and bigger and bigger. Afterwards, Mom asked me if I'd like to watch some real frogs growing. I know where there's a pond with lots of frog eggs in it, she said. We could bring some home. I was frightened. I don't want frogs jumping around, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, I said. But Mom gave me a hug. It's only a story, she said. Even when our frogs are growing up, they'll still be smaller than my hand. Oh, I said, okay. The next day, we went to look at the pond. The water was dark brown, and there were gray jelly stuff floating on the top. Yuck, I said. There's the frog spawn, said Mom, and she pointed to the gray jelly stuff. I bet that was laid last Friday night. The frogs were croaking so loudly I couldn't get to sleep. You see the black dot in the middle of each jelly shell? Said Mom. That's going to grow into a tadpole. Where are the frogs? I asked. Tadpoles grow into frogs, she said. Little ones, not giant frogs here. Mom put some pond weed and some stones into a bag and filled a bucket with pond water when I scooped a little of the frog spawn into it. When we got home, we put everything in a big fish tank in the kitchen. The cat kept peering at it, so I had to put a wire net over the top. I counted 27 little black dots. Each dot was inside its own jelly shell. Every day when I woke up, I went straight downstairs to look at the frog spawn. The little dots grew into bigger dots, and then into tiny curls. And one morning I saw the first tadpole wiggling out of its jelly shell. At first, the tadpoles didn't do much. They just stayed close to their jelly shells and nibbled at the pond weed. But after 2 or 3 days, they looked quite different. There were feathery things on their hands, and I could see their eyes. They swam very fast. Ten of the eggs didn't ever hatch. The black dots went dull and cloudy, and Mom took them away. Then we cleaned out the tank and I put in fresh pond weed and pond water. One of the tadpoles swam into my hand when I was putting the stone back. It was slippery and slithery, and it made me jump. After a while, I got used to having tadpoles, and I didn't look at them so often. When Mom told me their little feathery things had disappeared, I didn't believe her, but it was true. I was the one who saw the next change, though. Look, I shouted, and Mom rushed to see. Some of the tadpoles had grown 2 little bumps. Mom said the bumps would grow into back legs. They grew very quickly. One day, there were 2 little bumps. The next day, the bumps were stumps. The day after that, they looked almost like real legs. And when the feet unfolded, they were webbed like tiny brownish-green fans. They aren't tadpoles anymore, I said. They're not quite frogs. The not quite frogs grew front legs next, and then their tails got shorter, and their mouths got wider. Now they're frogs, Mom said, baby ones. Soon the baby frogs were popping up and gulping at the surface of the water. One of them tried to climb onto the stones, but it slid off. Mom said they were getting ready to leave the water. Grown-up frogs breathe air, she said. That's what the stones are for, so our frogs can climb out of the water and breathe. Not long after that, Mom said it was time to take our baby frogs back to live in the pond with all the other baby frogs.
I was sorry to leave them, but Mom said we could come back and visit every day. One rainy morning, a week later, Mom woke me up very early. "Hurry," she said, and we ran downstairs and out to the pond. There were hundreds of tiny frogs hopping over the grass. "They're looking for dark, wet places to live," Mom said. "But they won't go far. In a couple of years, they'll be back to lay frog spawn of their own." "Will they get bigger then?" I asked. "Just a little," said Mom. "Good," I said. "I like having frogs jumping around, getting bigger and bigger and bigger."
A frog in the bog.
There's a frog on a log in the middle of the bog. A small green frog on a half-sunk log in the middle of the bog. He flicks one tick as he creeps up a stick. One tick in the belly of a small green frog on a half-sunk log in the middle of the bog. And the frog grows a little bit bigger. And he sees two fleas as they leap through the reeds. One tick, two fleas in the belly of the frog on a half-sunk log in the middle of the bog. And the frog grows a little bit bigger. He spies three flies as they buzz through the skies. One tick, two fleas, three flies, oh my, in the belly of the frog on a half-sunk log in the middle of the bog. And the frog grows a little bit bigger. He glubs four slugs as they sink through the sludge. One tick, two fleas, three flies, oh my, four slugs, ew, ugh, in the belly of the frog on a half-sunk log in the middle of the bog. And the frog grows a little bit bigger. He inhales five snails from their heads to their tails. One tick, two fleas, three flies, oh my, four slugs, ew, ugh, and five slimy snails in the belly of the frog on a half-sunk log in the middle of the bog. What a hog, that frog! And the frog grows a little bit bigger. Then the log with the frog in the middle of the bog starts to rise, and the frog sees eyes. And the frog sees claws and a big set of jaws and a mouth with a crater, and the frog screams, "Gator!" With his mouth open wide, all the bugs inside start to crawl and fly and slither and slide. Out come five snails from their heads to their tails. Four slugs, ew, ugh. Three flies, oh my. Two fleas, dear me. One tiny tick, ick. And right in the middle of his holler, that frog grows a whole lot smaller. "See you later," says the gator as he romps through the swamp because his itty-bitty frog isn't big enough to chomp. Now, the bugs in the bog keep away from the frog, and the frog never sits on a half-sunk log.
Finish fabulous frogs.
This frog is huge for a frog. It's a Goliath frog and it lives in Western Africa. These frogs are tiny. These are the smallest kind of frog in the world. And this one has a very strange nose. It's called a Darwin's frog in South America. This frog can, oops, jump really far really quickly. It's a striped rocket frog from Australia. Croak, ribbit, honk, rack rack, trump. And these ones make an awful lot of noise. Frogs call to let other frogs know that they are there. These are all male frogs. Female frogs are generally much quieter. The big one in the middle is a bullfrog. This one is called a flying frog, although it can't really fly. It lives in the trees in the forests in Southeast Asia. It spreads out the skin between its toes to help it float in the air when it jumps from tree to tree. And this one is called a hairy frog, although it doesn't have any real hair. The hairy frog lives in Western Africa. The things that look like hair are little strips of skin. They probably help the frog breathe when it's underwater. I think these frogs are all beautiful. I couldn't tell you which one is the most beautiful, but I can tell you that each one could kill a horse, though only if the horse was silly enough to try to eat it. A horse wouldn't eat a frog on purpose, but plenty of other animals might. South American poison arrow frogs are a deadly poison in their skin to help protect them. Their bright colors are always say, "Stay away." These frogs make a nest of foam for their eggs. They're African gray tree frogs. Their nests hang in branches over ponds and streams. When the eggs in the nest hatch, the tadpoles wiggle out and drop into the water below. And the one with the very strange nose looks after his babies in its throat. The male Darwin frog snaps up the eggs before they hatch and keeps the tadpoles in a very special pouch in his throat. You'd think he would swallow them all the way down by accident, but he never seems to. This frog never leaves the water. This is an African clawed frog. It spends its whole life living in the stream or pond. Not many frogs do that. And this frog can live buried in the ground for years and years, waiting for the rain. It's an Australian water-holding frog, and it lives in the desert. It makes a little room for itself where it can stay cool and damp. All these frogs are wonderful, but my favorite frog of all is the middle-sized green-brown one that sits on a lily pad in my backyard pond.
So for story time today, we talked about frogs. So we're going to do a frog craft. And with this frog craft, you're going to make a frog with a party streamer noisemaker so the frog's tongue comes out. All right, so I did make kits, so they are available for pickup if you'd rather just pick one up. But what I did was I made the face and placed 2 yellow pieces on for the nose and some dots for some extra spots for the frog, and a hole for the party noisemaker to go through for the tongue. You need a popsicle stick and also some legs, arms, some eyes, and his eyes, which the googly eyes will go on. So you'll need to glue your legs on. And the arms. And 2 eyes. We're going to try some glue for the googly eyes. Might need a little extra. Get them to stay. And your popsicle stick. And I lost an arm already. Okay. And I grabbed a little tape for the popsicle stick. It might need some tape. And then where the hole is cut, you'll just put your tongue through so that your frog tongue now extends. Just like that. Have fun making your frog.